Hey guys, welcome back to the coolest people in the world. I am so freaking excited about this conversation. I'm here with my friend Shelby Crews. Hi Shelby, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to get in this conversation with you. And before we started recording, I told Shelby, I just want to have the conversation. So this is actually our first time meeting and we're virtual. I'm here in New Jersey and Shelby is in West Virginia.
Mhm.
And we're going to get into the story of kind of how we know each other. But how's your day going?
Good. It is going well. It is Friday. And
Finally Friday.
literally, I think the weather might be warm today, so perfect.
In West Virginia, it's warm. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I'm here in Jersey, and it's humid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'm thankful for the warmth, though. Listen, I'll take the warmth over the
Yes.
winter any day. So
Yes.
I'm over here. I'm glancing down because I'm just trying to prepare my brain to describe kind of who you are and why we're here. Shelby is. We'll get into how we got connected. So she's a graduate assistant. She is a counseling student at West Virginia University. She's getting her master's, currently getting her master's in clinical mental health counseling. She holds a bachelor's degree of psychology from Southeastern University. And she's working now as a graduate assistant at West Virginia University. And a counseling intern at Unbound Counseling. So that's all the formal description that I wrote down in my notes. But
Yeah.
I want you to introduce yourself and kind of color that in and let us know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, nice to meet everybody. My name is Shelby. A little bit about where I am currently. Uh, Like was said, I am a GA at West Virginia University. I have 35 days until the end of my last semester for my master's degree. Yes, I cannot wait. And let's see, I'm originally from Florida, originally from North Florida. I moved up to West Virginia for my master's. And I'm just really passionate about mental health and making sure that people feel less alone in what they go through. So, kind of what brought me to West Virginia is I own a nonprofit, founded it back in Florida. And then one day I was like, hey, it'd probably be easier to help others if I had training in this. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of what brought me to West Virginia. I wish there was like a more poetic description, but when people ask why I moved to West Virginia, I literally Googled counseling master's programs in the mountains, and here I am.
I love that, and I love the mountains, and it's poetic for me, for what it's worth. So I want to tell you, I don't even know if you really know the whole backstory.
Mm,
So okay, Whitney and I always, her last name is such a mouthful, Glotfelty. I don't know if I
yeah,
say it right.
that's how I say it. So,
Okay. So Whitney, so going back 100 years, aka 2012, I'm sorry, 2010, 2011, I started a blog called Skinny Jeans Dreams. And originally Whitney followed that blog. We
mhm,
have stayed friends on Facebook. We've never met in person through all my life transitions since. She has been such a huge, I don't want to say fan, a friend, but we've
yeah,
never hugged each other in real life, but just such a supporter of everything I've done in life from
mhm,
afar. And this podcast is kind of a revamp of something I started last year, but this is the culmination of my life's journey in many ways. And
mhm,
I have my own mental health, a lot of what I share, what I blog about, talk about has been about mental health and my own journey. But
mhm,
Whitney put out on Facebook that you were looking to get some clinical hours in, I believe.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, hey, it's kind of crazy, but I'll have her on the podcast. I love to have conversations like that. And then I was reading your article today, and I was telling you before we recorded, and I told Whitney too. I was absolutely sobbing at what you've done. We're going to get into Shelby's organization, Tread and Trample, which is just such meaningful work, which is exactly why this podcast exists.
mhm,
Um, but I was literally a mess laying in my bed. I was messaging her because the alignment in which you're coming to my life right now is so poetic to me that
mhm,
I'm not even finding the accurate words. So I don't know why you went to West Virginia, but I know that I wouldn't have found you if you didn't. And I'm thankful for my little thread.
yes, yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's kind of what I even told Whitney, because Whitney, first off, is just incredible,
Yeah.
like amazing human being. I was like, of all the places I could have ended up, for some reason I ended up here and met some of the best people I've ever met. So it really is a privilege to for you to, be on that list now.
That's really cool. And she speaks so highly of you. When I was messaging her, she was just like, you
Yeah.
two are kindred spirits. I can't wait for you to meet. So,
Yeah. She's the best.
um, so tell me a little bit. I really want to, I want to jump to Tread and Trample so badly, but I just kind of want to know a little bit more about your journey. What made you lean into psychology as a
Mhm.
major, as undergrad? And then we'll talk about how we got here.
Yeah. So actually, when I graduated high school, my plan was to major in music therapy.
Mhm.
Because I've always had an interest in music, how it can be helped or utilized to heal other people. And I also love science. And I was, researching like every junior or senior in high school does, stumbled on music therapy, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is my reason for living. Like, this is what I want to devote my life to. Um, so fast forward to, um, I got my AA degree instead of going straight to my bachelor's, with the idea that I would get my AA degree and then transfer to Florida State University because they were one of the only programs in Florida that offered that degree. So I got my AA, and I didn't do enough research as to what that process looks like. I'm a first gen college student. And so I was like, oh, I missed a deadline, and I also can't read music. And I didn't realize that was part of it. Again, hindsight's 2020.
Of course.
So there I was, thinking that my life's purpose was to be a music therapist, and I had um, missed the deadline, and I didn't have what programs, required
Yeah,
to
I'm
have.
sorry. I'm over here like
No,
adjusting
that's
my. I
okay.
hate looking at myself, and I'm cutting you off by my little
No,
behavior.
no, it's weird. I'm like darting
I
my
know.
eye.
I know. I'm like, look at her.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, so I kind of was just at a crossroads, and I was like, the program I was in where I did my undergrad degree had an option to go ahead and continue and get psychology. So I was like, it's close to music therapy. It allows me to kind of mold a career similar to that, buy myself a little bit of time, maybe try to learn how to read music. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But so then I continued and got my psychology degree. And I've always just been interested in just human behavior and what that means, what that looks like. But honestly, what my biggest, I feel, purpose in life is just to help other people. I always knew that I wouldn't feel fulfilled in a role or a job or career if that wasn't the end goal or the outcome of what I was doing. So, again, with a psychology degree, I was like, well, I have this degree. Maybe I will do human, resources. I wasn't quite sure. And kind of the culmination with my own mental health journey, I really struggled in my last year of undergrad. And I was like, I know mentally I can't go and get a master's right now. Um, so I kind of just took a pause and ended up in the community mental health care world. So in that gap year period between my undergrad and my graduate, I was in community mental health care while simultaneously trying to get Tread and Trample off the ground. And I kind of was just like, this is it, like absorbed with, a little bit of foundational psychological knowledge, and understanding that like with additional knowledge comes new opportunities to help other people. So that's kind of what brought me to the psychology field. I'm not sure if that answered your
Yeah,
question.
no, absolutely. I wanted to kind of set the stage because you don't have to answer this, but what age range are you? Or how old are
I am
you?
26.
26.
26.
Yeah.
Yes. I forget nowadays.
So I know, well, definitely I do. About 10
Yeah.
plus on you. But it's so weird because I say that, but like it feels like yesterday I was on the other side of a conversation like this. And so I'm
Mm,
really amazed by your journey so far and like your understanding of what you are put here to do and what you've already done. And so Tread and Trample began because you were having your own mental health challenges, which we've
mhm.
all had in so many different ways. I know I've shared tons of my life very openly, and it's largely centered around just mental health and the journey of it. Like we all
Yeah.
have our, unique journey there. But what sparked interest to you was for Tread and Trample was that your friend didn't have the same access, if I'm
Mhm.
understanding
Mhm.
correctly, to
Yep.
mental health care, which is
Yep.
so moving that you were so in your own world, in your own healing, but you were like, but wait, we all deserve healing. So can you talk to me about that and kind of take us to how we got to Tread and Trample?
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. I was in my junior year of undergrad when COVID happened. Um, and that's, I kind of could probably pinpoint that was when mentally, as with everybody else on the planet, things started to get a little bit out of balance. Fast forward to the end of that year. So now I'm in my senior year of undergrad. Um, Really, the winter and the turn into 2021 was when things got pretty significantly worse. A little background with for me, I kind of had mental health struggles my whole life, some childhood anxiety, and just kind of always ever present, but never enough to, in the clinical sense, disturb daily functioning until that winter. So around that time, I found that. I guess it would be described as like anxiety and depression. It was hard for me to eat. I lost a lot of weight really quickly because I didn't have an appetite. Constant worry, sleeping a lot, not being motivated, lack of fatigue or fatigue, lack of energy. And also, like my first experience with the clinical term is anhedonia. Are you familiar with that term? Like,
No. Mm-mm.
so anhedonia is a lack of pleasure.
Okay.
And so that was really one of my biggest symptoms was like I could think of like me right now, I can think of things. I can think of my favorite foods, I can think of my favorite places to be, my favorite things to watch on TV or my favorite people to be with, and
Yeah.
I get kind of a chemical response or I can put myself in those settings and they're going to boost my mood. So
Right.
anhedonia kind of robs that from people that experience it. So I would remember I would sit there and I'm like, okay, I need to eat. Everything sounds gross. I can't eat
Yeah.
it. Okay, let me go and let me turn on TV to make myself feel better. But everything I would watch didn't bring me any pleasure. So it's
Yeah.
just this gray feeling. And it was overwhelming to me. Again, I had this undercurrent of mental health struggles, but never to this extent where I couldn't, for lack of better terms, like pull myself out of it. Like my resources weren't bringing me joy. And so I didn't know what to do.
I understand.
Um, and so I was heavily involved in a church around that time and
Mhm.
not diving too much into it, but I think that there's a lot of just room for growth with all different kind of communities for mental
Yeah.
health advocacy. And we only know what we know.
Yeah.
And so a lot of advice that I was given wasn't helpful. And
We can talk about it on this podcast if you want. I don't.
yeah. Well,
But
I
it's what you're saying is valid because depending on where you're getting the guidance from, it might not be guiding you in the direction of your highest good.
right. And I can get on soapboxes. I have to like warn people because this is like my jam. I geek out about this kind of stuff. So just knock me off if you need to. But yeah, it was kind of just like again, people only know what they know.
Mhm.
And so their way of helping was to tell me to pray more or to read my Bible. And like I'm over here struggling to eat. I can't. Like
Yeah.
I physically cannot do that. And so just that kind of compounded some feelings of shame or guilt or that I was doing something wrong to have this experience, um, which are just really hard. And you're facing something, or I faced something that I'd never faced before. And here I am, all my resources are depleted, and I feel really misunderstood.
Yeah.
So, um, thankfully, there was a moment where I was just crying. Everyone in my house, I remember everyone in my house was asleep. And it was just this really lonely feeling of I'm alone. I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And so I just Googled, I was like, counselors in Nassau County, Florida,
Yeah.
which is also an overwhelming process. I didn't even know where to start. And half the counselors weren't even back from COVID.
Right.
But I found someone that took my insurance.
How old were you about this time, if you don't mind?
Let's see, that would have been 21. So I was 22. I was
Okay.
22.
That's
Hmm.
brave of you to be
Well,
like,
thank
I need
you.
help. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was like, I remember that was the moment where I was like, I can't do this. I don't know even where to start.
I understand.
So I started counseling. That would have been like February of 2021. So I started counseling. My counselor suggested for me to see PCP, so primary care physician,
Mhm.
and she was like, she kind of explained antidepressants to me. I'm going in with like no knowledge.
Yeah.
And so she kind of explained it the same way. She's like, diabetics take insulin. Sometimes your brain chemistry gets off and you need a little bit of a boost.
Mhm.
So spoke with my PCP and started an antidepressant, um, going alongside with my counseling, and also simultaneously the so my undergrad experience was in part with an internship at a church. So like I would take my psychology bachelor's classes, but then simultaneously I was an intern at this church. And so part of the internship experience for that semester, we were traveling to Colorado to climb a mountain. And so we were having to actively exercise, prepare for that journey. So it was like a simultaneous, I'm getting my bachelor's in psychology, I'm going to counseling, started medication, and I'm also training for this hike.
Wow.
So around that same time, I'm walking with my friend who, again, like shockingly similar journeys. And I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, you need to go to counseling. Like, it really helped just having someone there, having someone able to point me to resources when you don't know where to start. You should really, think about going. And she was just like, yeah, that sounds awesome, but I can't. Her situation, her parents removed her from her insurance due to some personal reasons. And so I just remember I was like on the phone with her in my car, and there was just this feeling. I was like, she
Yeah.
can't, and I can't do anything about that.
Mhm.
Um, and it just kind of opened my eyes. It was a big season of revelation of one, understanding mental health in such a new way that I didn't have the experience or the knowledge or the language to really empathize with people who had walked through something similar, because I you just don't quite understand it until you've walked through it
No,
in a different
absolutely.
sense.
If you
Um,
haven't walked the walk, it's yeah. I just
exactly.
shared something about this today about how people are so quick to get trainings and to become coaches on like how to find your purpose and how to heal and do these things. And I just shared like you can't trust someone that hasn't walked the walk, because walking the walk is something that really can't be boxed or packaged and sold. Like you can help, I can hold your hand, I can tell
Mhm.
you what happened, and I can give you some tools, but I can't like box it and sell it to you.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, people only know what they know. So it's
Yes.
like there's just something that nothing compares to the feeling of someone being like, I see you because I've, experienced it.
Yes.
Yeah, so just a big season of learning a lot. Again, I'm 22, so I have so much to learn and I still have so much to learn, but it was just like the curtains got drawn back on
Mhm.
mental health, and then also accessibility and what healing actually looks like. So,
Yeah.
yeah, from that um conversation, a little bit of time had passed and I was training for the aforementioned hike, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling better. Like I would say that the tables kind of turned. I would consider that about where my recovery journey had started. I was like, I'm able to live
Yeah.
again. Like my daily functioning is back. Why did I go through all of this?
Yeah.
And so I was just asking, and I was like, okay, God, if there's a reason why I had to go through this to help somebody else, like what is the purpose of all of this?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the first thought of Tread and Trample popped into my mind.
I love that. So give us the nutshell of like what Tread and Trample actually does.
Yeah. So Tread and Trample exists to lessen mental health stigma and provide counseling coverage to people that can't afford to go or are in danger of having to discontinue services for financial reasons. So kind of, I guess, two or threefold. There's some number tucked in there, but kind of based on what I knew that I needed when I was going through what I went through. I needed stories of people that made it out, because I would literally spend hours Googling like people that made it through depression,
Yeah.
people that are speaking about their healing, and
It's
it was
so
hard to find.
interesting.
Yeah, it's you'd think that it's kind of easier to find, but I just found a lot of like quotes or tips or stuff like that, and I really just wanted someone's story. So
Yeah.
we promote stories of people that are in recovery or experiencing mental health disorders or mental illness. We host walks and events to try to spur that conversation on and kind of just paint a big banner in our community and beyond that, hey, people are struggling, but there's someone that's with you. Because I was like, okay, if I could go back to that version of me and see a group of people that come together to talk about mental health and to walk and celebrate somebody that has gone through it, that would have meant so much to me.
Absolutely.
So we try to remove stigma around mental health, spur conversation through walks and events, and then from those walks and events, the funds that we raise go towards covering invoices for individuals that are at financial risk of not getting the services they need.
So we need to break all of that down. It's just all so like it excites me so much. It's so necessary, first of all. As someone who has been on the front lines of a public health, mental health journey in many ways,
Yeah.
um, there's times where I've shared things where I'm thinking this could be a diary entry, and then I'll find someone that will read it and say, "Thank God you shared that."
Hmm.
Because I needed to read it, and I know I'm just a drop in the bucket, right? Like there's not a whole lot of people, to your point,
Yeah.
sharing these things, and most importantly, celebrating on the other side. And I'm so thankful for you, one, sharing your journey about, our like diabetics need insulin. Like I'll share with you, and something that I really haven't talked about too much publicly yet. I've been trying to on the Daily Bailey, my blog, a little bit, but like
Hmm.
at the end of last year, I went on mental health medications for the first time in my life. And I had struggled with anxiety and depression since I was a child, since I was a teenager. And I'll be 38 this November. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I have all the tools. I've been to therapy forever. I'll shout counseling and therapy from the rooftops. And I was like you said, why aren't my tools working? It's like I was trying to build a house and I can't build a house because my hammer's not working. And I was like, so I was like, when I was reading your article, I was just relating to you so much in just so many ways. But
Hmm.
also, what I find amazing about you is that you in it said, all right, well, God, I know I didn't go through this for nothing. So show me what it's for. And you turned around and created this amazing organization that gives what people like me and people like you, I also wish I had someone saying, here's what it looks like on the other side. In many ways, I just am like, well, I don't want to die, so I guess I got to force myself through the darkness. And,
Yep. Yep.
and that's a whole nother topic of conversation. Give me one sec.
Yep.
But so I guess we'll start with the walks, because I think that's
Mhm.
really important. You talked about how your body and mind kind of align with each other. It's something I've talked about in the past. Even my shifting of thinking and walking, instead of exercising for like to lose weight or to change my body image, I've shifted my thinking to be like, I walk so that my body and mind can align themselves. So like everything you've said and do is something that I like praise and celebrate and
Yeah.
love so much. So let's talk about the importance of that from your clinical perspective and your experiences as well.
Yeah, for sure. So going all the way back to my first journey of counseling, when like I guess the puzzle pieces kind of started to click together. I think that, and you might be able to relate to this as well. The idea of exercise and health, from my perspective growing up, was always kind of in diet culture of, you either eat what you want to eat or you eat like salads and grilled chicken and like, and then like you exercise to lose weight. Like it's a lot of cardio and doing all this. That's kind of how my brain used to conceptualize it. And then in counseling, my therapist was talking about like what your brain actually requires to function. Things like protein and leafy greens and um, things like that that your body literally requires. So she was, you know, also she was like, okay, if all you can eat today is a cupcake because you have no appetite, that's fine. But like I started doing protein shakes.
Yeah.
Um, to get protein and give my brain actually what it needs to have the strength to function and to have the ability to create new neural pathways.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of conceptualized, eating and diet in the sense of what I'm consuming in a different way for me, as well as walking. So from a clinical standpoint, your mind and body are connected and, like the catchphrase of your body keeps the score. So in my clinical experience, and as I'm still learning as a master's student, you can't disconnect them. And actually, you get certain chemicals released in your body from exercising that go into your brain health. My first therapist even was like, antidepressants are that, that kickstart of what it sounds like your brain might need, but also you're going to have to, work at it with
Manage it
diet
all.
and exercise,
Yes.
stuff like that. So she was like, whatever you can do, like if you can get out for 10 minutes and walk, try and do that. And that, I want to give everyone credit that has started their recovery journey, I guess, ever, because I can remember a moment when I was like, okay, I need to go outside, I need to eat, I need to exercise. This is what my brain needs. And I was lacing up my shoes and I remember just falling onto my bed. I was like,
Mm,
I literally can't get myself outside.
yeah.
Um,
Mm,
and so just those small steps of this is what I'm able to do. I think I woke my sister up and I ate some ice cream and she walked outside with me.
yeah.
So it was those small steps to be able to get my brain what it needs and my body what it needs to be able to process this. So I mean also in the clinical sense it's moving the body, being in nature. A lot of times when we're walking in community or with a loved one. So that social aspect, it's really what allowed me to take that next step into what does my healing look like. I kind of, to say a pun, walked myself there. So that's why it's so important for me as a nod to my experience that the walk is like the central theme of the organization.
No, I love that, and it's such a healthy perspective and just paradigm on what you know health can look like. And growing up in the 90s, I mean, same. Like that's how my whole life was, and I grew up overweight, so like I only knew, a lot of my journey is a fluctuation with weight as well. So like I
Mm,
only knew exercise to be associated with weight loss. And if I wasn't actively losing weight, then there was no reason for me to be actively moving my body, really.
right.
As as I've gotten a little bit older and I'm a little bit wiser and a little more
Mhm.
experienced, I have come to understand what you're talking about. Also, like, I was out for a walk the other day. I'm like, dang, I'm in my late 30s. Like, you're not getting the years back.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what would happen if you went for a walk for like every day for the rest of your life?
Mm,
And I was like, this is a conversation with myself and myself. So I'm
yeah.
like, well, I don't know. What would it be like?
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I will say, like, since then, that was maybe like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks
Mhm.
ago. I may have missed a day or two, but I really feel this like push to like, no, like get out there and move your body. And then
Yeah.
you come along and I'm like, look at this little confirmation. And
It really is poetic.
it is, you really don't even, we're just scratching the surface. Like you're just getting to know me too, right? So
Yeah.
like when we get to know each other offline, you're gonna be like, holy shit.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about it.
Like just so many stories. We'll be here all day telling them. But
Yeah.
okay, so one of the things that stuck out to me in the article that you sent me, and the article I'm referring to is one that West Virginia University wrote about you, about Tread and Trample and your journey.
Mhm.
Um, oh, I'm looking at my notes here and I have it in my phone, but basically,
Mhm.
probably not word for word, you said that your heart sometimes goes faster than your brain. And that you learned about the business side of running an organization, kind of feet to the fire. So
Yeah.
I, again, relate so much. I was like, I
Yes.
screenshot that for myself, like, yep, me too.
Yeah.
But like, talk to me about the journey. Like, what have you learned and how has
Yeah.
it been in learning about the business side of things?
Oh man. Candidly, there are moments where I'm like, what have I done? Like again, my heart moves quicker than my brain. So like sometimes when my brain catches up, I'm like, I'm completely unqualified to do this. I made a comment once. We were hosting a silent disco like 2 summers ago, and I was driving a Honda Civic at the time, and I'm with my little sister. We're putting like massive totes and like poles for flags and stuff for this event. And I stopped and I said, Sheridan, next time I have an idea like this, just tell me to make a donation. Make a recurring donation. Like, tell me to slow down, think about it. And of course, I say that in humor because I wouldn't change a single thing about it. Like, I love what I do, and I hope that, when my training is complete, I get to continue and make it bigger, whatever it ends up evolving into. But yeah, so after my kind of initial thought, my first thought was, let's like maybe I'll do hikes and maybe start like an Instagram page where I do hikes and collect donations and then donate it to, I think I was thinking like the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or something similar. And then someone was like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? And I was like, okay, like what does that look like? Let me chew on that. Again, I'm 22, fresh out of bachelor's degree, and I will tell you, I'm just not the business person. Like that stuff just
Like a
isn't me.
visionary.
Yeah, like that isn't I'll vision about it, I'll, talk your ear off about it, but when it comes down to it, I'm completely not qualified. So I was like, okay, let me chew on this. And then I probably annoyed the mess out of all my friends for at least weeks because like I just was like, hey, like what if we had a nonprofit and we did walks? And like my idea is the walks are always free. There's no barriers to be involved in the community, but the goal is that you bring in money to go towards providing counseling coverage for people that need it. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I don't think they thought I was serious about it. So then like it was just a whirlwind few months where I was like, I don't know what's going on. So, buying the website domain, getting all the social media handles, making the graphics. And I think that like that's the fun part kind of, or where it's exciting. And then it's
That's
like,
creative work.
right. Again, I'm like not the business person. And then everyone's like, hey, where's your 501c3 status? And I want to crawl into a hole.
Yeah.
Like, we
You're like,
don't need
what?
that.
My what?
Yeah. Like, no, we're just helping people. Like, you don't understand.
Right, right.
Um, so thankfully, a university near home had a free business consultation service. And so I met with someone like once or twice a month to get us off the ground. So we hosted one walk before our 501c3 status that helped us fund like the legal fees and stuff to I guess it'd be accredited business in the state
Mm,
of Florida.
mm.
So yeah, again, my brain I think is still trying to catch up
Yeah.
of learning
You just
what
hire the right people. Build the right team.
exactly, exactly. And that is honestly what we would not be where we are today without the business
Yeah.
consultation program at the University of North Florida. Like she walked me through, encouraged me along the way when I was, you know, thinking about giving up. So
Yeah.
again, I think that's still the hardest part about running Tread and Trample, especially, like being in school right now too, making sure that invoices get paid and that things are taken care of. But again, it's worth the effort for one person that
Yeah.
cares that it's impacted them in some way.
Right. I love this so much. I have so many questions. So I just my bubble just went to your friend, your the original friend that inspired this. How is she now?
So we've kind of drifted apart a little bit. And honestly, I always kind of reference her and I wonder if she knows that
Yeah.
like I'm talking about her. I think she does. And
Yeah.
I slightly recall a conversation that we had where I got to be like, hey, like this wouldn't be a thing without that one conversation.
Yeah.
But I think she's doing well. Obviously, we live in separate places now, but
Oh
I'd
yeah.
spoken the phone with her a few weeks ago, and she is now married and expecting her first child.
Oh, good for
So,
her. That's awesome. I was wondering about her earlier, and I like scribbled down to ask about
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Um, I okay. So I'm just going through my notes real quick because I want to make
Hmm.
sure I ask you everything that I. Can you? So, do you still, now that you're at where you're almost on your master's degree in counseling, do you still
Hmm.
have a counselor or therapist of your own?
Yes.
Talk about the
Yes.
importance of that.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I can talk enough about the importance of that. And there's a lot of being a therapist that I didn't quite realize until I started training and understanding how much you hold space for other people and how you're still a human in those instances. Um, So I think that one part of it is like community is so important. No matter where you work or what you work as, we're meant and designed, our nervous system is literally designed to be in community. And so, never understating having someone in your life. I'm always going to argue to go see a therapist and counselor. That's kind of just my biased opinion. But even if it isn't, having someone to be able to process what you're going through and how that's impacting your body. And I think, too, removing barriers and understanding that therapists don't have it all together either. And there's, I think, the beauty of understanding that we're two humans sitting together as two broken people, and we're acknowledging that things are broken, but there's healing and there's hope. So, yeah, just making space for that reality that just because you have specific training, you can't ever train out your own humanity. And I think
Mhm.
that that is a place of growth for everybody. But again, I argue that that is one of the most beautiful things, that we're
Yeah.
always growing and we're always evolving and we always have space to improve, and admit that, hey, we're not okay.
Right, right, right. Because every time, and my retrospect will afford you, the wisdom, right? That you need
Mhm.
to see, oh, well, I know how to do this now because I've done this before, right? But, or I don't know how to do this because I don't, the tools that I used before aren't working. So SOS.
Exactly. Exactly.
But nonetheless, someone like yourself and like myself and people who are self-aware and students of themselves, and they're like, hey,
Mhm.
something's not right, life, I say this all the time, presents itself to you over and over and over. And I said recently, I've been nose to nose with the mirrors of myself lately. And like,
Mhm.
just when you think like, oh, I figured that one out, like, I'm not on the mental health medication I was on last year. I let my body regulate. I did the things, I did
Yep.
the work that I felt was necessary to get here. But then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do these things and I'm going to go. And I went and I spoke to middle school girls, and don't you know, all my little shadows came and said,
Mhm.
knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
to play? And I was like, no, I'm doing something.
Yep.
But it's like, that's life.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's why we have conversations like this, I think, to normalize it and to say, hey, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to, and even if someone just sees themselves in this conversation just by
Mhm.
sharing it, maybe it encourages someone else to share their story. So there's
Yep.
a ripple effect in all of it for sure. And even to that point, my journey started in my early 20s. Like, I
Mhm.
went Facebook famous at 22 when I was a new mom, and I was losing 100 pounds. And
Mhm.
that's how I met Whitney, because I was Facebook famous when that was just
Yep.
becoming a thing, like pages. Um, but what allowed us to stay in touch, and what built the trust, was that I always shared very authentically, very like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, I'll have to pull some of the old posts so you can see, but it was like it was almost like a diary where I'm
Mhm.
like, this is what I'm doing to work through these feelings, but I was sharing
Mhm.
it publicly.
Mhm.
Um,
Love that.
and I just think it's so important. Sorry, I just like, I
No,
minimized myself so I wasn't staring at myself, and now I keep forgetting that I'm like,
on camera.
yeah. As my son walks in, hold on one second. I'll just hold
Yeah.
that thought so I can. My daughter failed me. She was supposed to intercept.
Mommy, Daddy!
But yes, go. Bye. 10-year-old voice.
Wish I had that much energy.
It is sun up to sundown. I might not even edit that out. I might just let that be in the.
I love it.
Because like, that's the other thing. I've been doing this whole time. My daughter will be 15. One of the summer. One of the reasons I started to lose weight to begin with in my early 20s, and that led to that, was because I wanted to be better for her. And part of my story is when I lost 100 plus pounds, and I was a size 2, and I was the smallest I had ever been in my life. I was so unhealthy mentally
Yep.
that I was like crying over food. And like, that's, I mean, I wish I could say that's when my journey started, but I
Mhm.
started as a kid. My mom went through divorces. I went to therapy, like,
Yeah.
it was not foreign to me. But I think until I started to incorporate a spiritual dynamic, like really, and make it make sense
Yeah.
all together, the body, mind, and spirit. I know it's like it's so cliche at this point. Everything's body, mind, spirit, but it's
Yeah.
so true, right? Like things
True.
are cliche for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding how to align those, I feel like was the puzzle for me.
Yeah. So important.
He totally took me off my game, but so, but I have my little pinch pot here. We'll get back to some of your story, but I have
Yeah.
this little pinch pot of topics. So,
I love that.
um, I love kids make these in like craft like art class in school. I
Uh-huh.
love when my kids bring home pinch pots. I have a ton of them.
Aw.
Heart shaped pinch pot that I got for Mother's Day from my son. That I was like, I was so excited about it that he was like, "Are you joking?" I was like, "No, I'm actually this excited."
I've never seen one of those before.
It's clay, and the kids
Yeah,
when they
just little.
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
they paint them and they give them to you. This one is my daughter's. I don't know what year, but um, anyway. So what I have in here though is when Whitney posted that you were looking to get some outreach.
Hmm.
She listed topics, so I have all the topics that she listed,
Oh,
and we're gonna pick
okay.
one and see where you want to go with it.
Yeah. Okay.
So are these? So you know what she listed. So are these topics that you are currently studying? Things you like to talk about? Like where did that come from?
Yeah, so one day she asked me, she was like, okay, you need hours. How can we help? And so she said, what do you feel competent enough to, or what could you feel competent enough to host a presentation on? And so I kind of just like spouted things out at her.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. So I picked self care when caring for others. So
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think to share more cliches of you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And they also like to say in grad school, another cliche, you have to put on your oxygen mask first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I conceptualize it in my own mind in terms of longevity and strategy of I do feel like I'm here and my life is devoted to caring for other people. I know at the end of the day, wherever I find myself, again, that is my heartbeat.
Yeah.
However, if I don't care for myself, I'm going to shorten the length of time I can care for other people. I can also not care for people in the same extent as I could if I was taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not presenting or giving an example of what being human and having needs looks like to care for other people. So I
Yeah.
think that it's important being a helper or, a caretaker, someone that takes care of other people to understand that you deserve that same respect and time.
Yeah.
And if you have to conceptualize it in that kind of wraparound, like by caring for myself, I'm caring for other people more.
Yeah. I like that.
That's kind of what it takes for me.
Yeah, no, it's like how I go on the walks. Like
Hmm.
you find a way that makes it make sense for you. Obviously, the core concepts, they're cliche for a reason, right? We just
Yep.
know them as almost white noise. You can't pour from an empty cup. We've heard that a thousand times, but
Hmm.
like we didn't hear it a thousand times because it's not true. We just need to find new conceptual ways to make it make sense
Exactly.
for us. So no, I like what you said. Um, what was I going to ask you? Is there a topic that you like really love to talk about that you could see yourself kind of following a path with?
Hmm. For this specific session or for like my life in general?
Your life in general.
I think at the end of the day, I'm extremely passionate for removing barriers and accessibility and equality and equity for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say that's my long goal. So whatever helps me get to that point, whether it be like at my job currently, I help with marketing and putting stuff on social media. So if that's what it takes to get someone to come to counseling, to get the care that they need, I'm, wholeheartedly do it. Same thing with psychoeducation. Again, people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's such a privilege. Someone even conceptualized it to me as a clinical mental health student. They were like, you are a privileged expert. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's such a good perspective. Like, I have had the privilege to be able to get, 6 years of schooling to have this access to this knowledge. And with privilege, I think comes, like to quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Much is given, much is expected. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So it's like I have this information and I've had the privilege to get it. So it is my responsibility to use it to help other
Yeah.
people and to remove barriers because I'm passionate about how trauma impacts individuals and then how it impacts families generationally and how poverty plays into that because you have one generation that can barely afford to keep the lights on and keep everybody fed. That's going to incorporate a layer of trauma, and no, they're not going to spend additional money to send a child or a partner or someone in that family to therapy. And so then that trauma goes unaddressed. Again, people, this is on my mind. They only know what they know. And so if that trauma has created any dynamics in that family of dysfunction or maladaptive coping skills in any way, that individual goes on to create their own family that's going to perpetuate their own trauma and how closely that's related to poverty. And poverty creates traumatic experiences, and traumatic experiences can domino effect into poverty because of that mental health aspect. So I'm just so passionate again of like, it's such a privilege that I'm able to have the care and have the knowledge and be able to expand my own horizons, that it's almost like a hand in a line of dominoes is how I see it. If we can stop that generational cycle and get people the care that they need, those patterns will stop continuing. And I feel like it's my responsibility to step in as that one piece of the liaison. I know that I can't do it
Right.
independently.
You're a pebble in the pot, though. You are.
Exactly.
And there's a ripple. And this conversation is part of that ripple. Like, I'm over here just like, so you
Yeah.
can hear me. I'm over here like in church because it's like, yes to all of it. And there's so many layers to it. So like, as you're talking, I'm just thinking of different pockets and subsets of people that like the hear my son back outside because I didn't set any boundaries
Hey,
for
I
like
can
what
hear
was
him. So.
happening. I normally do things like this in my office, but like I wanted this setting and I
Yep.
was like, I'm gonna try it and wing it. We're gonna see what happens.
Yep.
But so now I lost my train of thought again because I hear the roller skates and footballs. Um,
Uh,
you were talking about access to care.
yes.
So, all the just different subsets and pockets of people. And, as you're talking, I could think of 5 different reasons of why someone wouldn't have access to mental health care. Not to mention, just the current changes in our reality. So one of the things I do is I work with disabled American veterans, the DAV. So my friend Jennifer, she's a female Navy vet, mom of 4, and she advocates, the DAV specifically advocates for getting veterans what they need and all of the variety of ways in which they can access it. But they did a report on female vets and their mental health, and one of the report highlights the gaps in access to care because they have to go through the VA system, and then the VA, depending on where they live, there's gaps in care because they're in a rural area, or they've experienced military sexual trauma and they don't want to be in a room with 100 other male vets, or they're going through menopause. There's just so many different facets and details, and that's just one group of people. So like, I think what you're doing, all that to say, what you're doing is also bridging a gap, because not only are you providing funding, even if it's one person, 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, for them to get that professional care, but in the meantime, in the gap on the bridge, you're also providing walks and opportunities for people to heal. And for me, like, yes, I've been to therapy, and I love what you said about, to whom much is given, much is expected. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think you said it differently, but same concept. Like,
Yep.
it's your responsibility. Influence is a responsibility to
Yep.
me. Writing is a responsibility to me. So I understand what you're saying. And I've often said, like, you know, I got a bachelor's from Stockton, and I have a master's from the School of Hard Knocks. Like, I got pregnant in college. I started my journey. I started this weight loss. I went viral. I started saying, like, looking back 15 years later, I'm like, here I am, and I'm thankful, and I'm thankful to have landed on my feet.
Yeah.
But I learned, like, the hard way, like the really hard way, like,
Mm-hmm.
and there was times where I was working with a therapist and saying, like, what will you take this week? And thankfully I found a therapist who was on a sliding scale.
Yep.
And I do come from especially a poverty mindset
Mm-hmm.
from family, and just so many things that what you're saying I can relate to and can see, like, it's not just your friend. It's not just me. It's just so many people. And so what you're doing is meaningful work, is my point.
Thank you. Thank you.
um, so so I have a couple notes here. So you mentioned living in the house with your family. I won't hold you too much longer. I know I'm
No,
like,
please, no, please.
your sister. So do you have a lot of family support, and how did that play into your healing?
Yeah. Um, so I a little bit about me. I'm the middle child of three girls. So really close with my sisters. We're all about 4.5 years apart. And then I was living at home with my family when Tread and Trample was born. And so I think on the personal aspect of it, it's overwhelming to see someone that you love go through a mental health challenge.
Right.
And it's like you don't even really know where to start. And so my parents and my family were so supportive, and I understand that that's a privilege of um trying to create spaces and provide care for what they knew would potentially help me. Um, I remember I told them about like the conversation I had with my therapist of like she told me I needed to try to eat and I need to get some protein drinks, try to, get something in my stomach. And my sweet parents, they made me breakfast in bed the next morning, like
Aw.
a pile of eggs. I took a picture. It's like a pile of eggs, two pieces of toast, two like bacon and juice, and obviously I could barely eat like two bites at
Yeah.
that point. But it was the gesture of like we're here and we're listening.
And we love you. Yeah.
Um and there would be times where they would just sit next to me when I didn't know what felt like I needed to do. Or I remember one time I was like, hey, people are telling me to read my Bible, but I can't. I don't know what to do. And my little sister took it and just read it to me. Uh, and so just those little things, and I apologize, I didn't mean to get
Oh,
emotional.
please don't apologize for crying. It's like my favorite thing in the world. Go.
As a therapist, I can say the same. Um,
Make me cry too.
but it's just those little things of just being there. You don't have to
Yeah.
know what exactly to say or you don't have to know what exactly to do, but just
Yeah.
to be there and be like, you're seen. I understand that this is hard for you and I'm here for
Right.
what you need or when you're ready to tell me what you need.
Right.
Um and so that was just incredible to have them as a support. And I know I didn't mention my older sister, but she did a lot of the same things, just little things here and there that allow you to feel seen.
Yeah.
Same thing with Tread and Trample. I I have a picture, I guess to mention my older sister, I have a picture where I said it was our first Tread and Trample board meeting. And it's just me and her in my bed with two laptops. Like, we're just gonna figure this out.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so when I had my like first board, my mom and my sister were on it from day one. My sister has helped with marketing and social media. We're
Mhm.
completely volunteer, so like
Yeah.
it's just out of the kindness and the trust of trusting that when I say I'm going to do something, I guess I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And
Yeah.
they just hopped on board because they saw the need. So every event or anything that Tread and Trample ever does, there's a high chance that all five of us are there. My dad's lugging in the heavy stuff. My mom's making checklists, and it's a whole family event, I guess. And that's
Blessing.
again another privilege of like I say this crazy idea with no business training at all, and my family's just like, okay.
Yeah. That's love.
Yep.
That's love. And honestly, I mean, when I think about my journey, like I moved myself all around. When I think about my journey, like my therapist was, my one therapist in particular was a huge part of it. But what
Hmm.
really for me was like, and I talk about Jen is an example of this, having someone like that, that's like, I love you unconditionally, like truly without condition,
Yep.
in any condition, like I will love you here, like that's, and not just that, but like show you how to love yourself again. And that's
Mhm.
something that I love my therapist, but that's not something necessarily my therapist helped me with. That's what someone that truly loved me showed me how to do. And it is a privilege. It's also just, it's a gift. It's a
Yep.
blessing. And, I think that we are given things like that in life because, like, someone like you're like, I know it's a responsibility. I wake up now, like, being on the other side of that for me when I had to go on mental health medication because I literally was so scared of myself
Yeah.
because my awareness was so high and I could see it happening,
Yep.
but I couldn't stop it. And I was like, I was panicking. Like,
Mhm.
I told somebody the other day, I was like Jack in the Titanic, like holding on to,
Mm. Yeah.
a piece and like just trying to breathe. Like, it scared the shit out of me.
Hmm.
And I'm so thankful to be here on the other side of it. And I do, I recognize too, like, wow, you had a bed and a house and a safe place
Yep.
and a therapist and access to medication and health insurance and a mom who loved you. And, maybe she was giving you Xanax that you may or may not have needed, but
Hmm.
it helped at the moment. Like,
Hmm.
but my sister, my stepmom, there was a day that my mom, my sister, my stepmom all came over. Nobody knew what to say to me, but they all did a puzzle with me.
Yep.
And I was just like, and my mom did bring me Xanax, which helped them to just be here and do the
Yes.
puzzle with me.
Yes. Yes.
But no, it is a gift, but I think that we are given second chances and third chances and fifth chances and blessings, like organizations that work and things that work, because we are people that say, hey, God, like, what do you want me to do with these two hands I got here?
Hmm.
What do you want me to do with this heart? And like, even me saying God, like, my journey in spirituality has changed. Like, my relationship with God now is so different, eons different than what it was when I thought I knew God when I went to church. I'm like,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
and we'll have another podcast on that another day. But
They say bookmark that for later.
yeah, there's, oh my God, I have like 5 different topics I could talk to you about. But
Yes.
I just think that what you're doing is because you're doing it is also why you're being fed the water,
I appreciate you
Um,
saying that.
yeah, yeah. So keep doing it. I wanted to talk. I made note too because this is another little thing. I made a question before I spoke to you about asking you about a healing song, not knowing anything about you starting school for music therapy.
Yeah.
Um, but music's been a huge part of my healing journey, and so like on the Daily Bailey, one of the things almost every day. It's not quite daily. It's like the almost Daily Bailey. um,
Yeah.
but I put out a lot of music that I listen to, and it's all just non-mainstream, like tribal or just high vibrational or frequency or just
Yep.
any variation. So I would love to, whatever you choose to give me, feature that on there this week as well. But is there like a song or a musician that has really helped you through?
Um, let's see. So part of my healing is I write my music as like instead of journaling, I write songs. And so that's kind of been my process. And again, another facet of how I hope to help people is there's literally like what you're saying, there's nothing compared that compares to when you hear a song and you're like, that's it. Like that's what I feel. Like
Yeah.
that's my experience. And so I hope to one day be able to write songs for people. Like I wrote a song, for instance, about anhedonia, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of lives there, and it allows me to express what that felt like to other people, and then to have people. So I actually recorded 3 songs last year to put on Spotify, like to hope for that.
So can I listen to them?
I'm sorry.
I can listen to them?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So they're
I love that.
demos.
No, I still love them.
But it's just me and my ukulele. But my hope of that again is for someone to be like, "Hey, that's what it felt like for me." And, you experienced this. And so I'm trying to think of an artist because that's a really good question of who I listened to that helped me. Huh.
You need to get back to me on it. You
Yeah,
can.
I feel like this is like I feel like I should know this. I'm trying to think back. Okay, there was one song I will say when like I was in my darkest place. One of the only things I enjoyed was listening to "Good Days" by SZA. Do you know what song I'm
I
talking
love it.
about?
Yep.
It was I don't know what it is about that song. Still, if I'm having a bad day, I put on "Good Days" by SZA, and I'm like
That is so
transcending.
funny. I love it. There's that one song for everybody. There was a
Yes.
point in point in time where I was really like going through it. Like a lot of the music I listen to now is either like nostalgic or
Mhm.
spiritual. So it's either like I'm going back to the 90s or I'm listening to something that's going to like move me and like,
Yep. Yep.
I mean, of course, with like some India Arie and like, some of my favorite artists mixed in. Um, Totally just lost where I was going with that thought.
Um, we all have that one song. It's kind of where you started.
Oh, my friend and I, we had a shared Spotify playlist. It was
Hmm.
called "Bitch Get Your Life," and it was, and it was whatever. When I was on one of those days, like I was just, going to be lethal if I walked out the
Yep.
door. It was put on this "Bitch Get Your Life" playlist and get your life.
Yep. Yep. So you understand the
But
power of
music's
scissors.
just such a huge part of just how I exist. I listen to music all the time. Like if I
Mhm.
wasn't doing this, there would be music on. There's always
Yep.
music.
Yep. I'm the same way.
Um, and so many songs that I've discovered. There's a song called "Blessings." I'll send it to you.
I think
It's
I was it on the end of your latest blog or one of your blogs.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yes, I
I
haven't listened
just
yet, but I saw it.
I just shared it, but I love that type of music, and it's
Hmm.
just like one, two. I don't know. I just learned. I don't know it yet, so.
Yeah.
But it's like I remember to count my blessings, and I find myself dancing to it. But what I love about it, from a psychological standpoint, is the songs get stuck in your head. So like
Yeah.
you know, um, what's the truth? Megan Wood sings that song, "The Truth." It's like
Hmm.
a Christian song.
Hmm.
Um, it's like the truth is I am my father's child.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know. Of course, I can never on the spot like think about it or
Yeah.
sing, but in my head when I'm not recording and I'm just in the shower and I'm having anxiety and I'm having a moment, a song like that, will
Yep.
go off.
Mhm.
And it's almost just like this training that I've done with unknowingly
Yeah.
by listening to this music that when I hear things pop up trying to tell me like, nah, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? A song like "The Truth Is I Am My
Mhm.
Father's Child," or
Yep.
there's like another song that I would listen to that was like, "Nobody thinks more about who I think I am than me."
Mm.
And so like
Yeah.
stuff like that just lives. And then
Yep.
when I'm struggling, so
Yeah.
think of a song, you don't have to think of it now, but one of the cool things about this platform is it's multimedia. So like I'll be
Mhm.
able to post this video and it'll be a podcast, but also I'm going to write up a little article. I'll be able to
Mhm.
share like whatever links you send me. So
Well, that's awesome.
um, yeah, so let me know. But before we go, kind of tell me where things are going, both
Mhm.
for yourself, for the organization. I know you're about to graduate. Tell me
Mhm.
what's next for you.
Yeah, so graduate, finish my master's this May, so about a month out. So excited. So my next step is to be a provisionally licensed therapist where I am currently doing my internship. They're amazing here, Unbound Counseling in Morgantown, West Virginia. So the process for West Virginia is about a year and a half, 2 years to be able to be a licensed individual. And then some legislature is going to pass. It's called the counseling compact. And it'll allow a little bit more leniency. Right now, if you have one license, you're only allowed to practice in that state. The counseling compact would allow people to apply for other licenses.
Hmm.
So my hope is to one day, whether that be in person or telehealth, provide services to my own community. As Tread and Trample, has kind of plateaued as I'm in my grad school experience. I'm excited to be on the other end of graduation and be able to invest a little bit more into it, try to get it up and going. Obviously, it's still up and going, but being able to invest
Yeah.
a lot more time and energy into it. I think my long term goal is to be able to have an agency or agencies dreaming big of Tread and Trample with in house counselors. So,
Mhm.
people are allowed to come in. It's like community mental health care, but in the nonprofit private sector.
Okay. Mhm.
So being able to provide services to individuals right there in house, provided and paid for through Tread and Trample. Um, and also, I'm always dreaming about having a place to incorporate whole body wellness too, and how important that is. Again, psychoeducating communities. I'm going to be able to do that next year while I'm being a while. See what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
My position here will be therapist as well as like community engagement
Okay.
coordinator sense. So I'll be able to merge like removing barriers and then also providing that care. So long term, it's just the more people help, the better, but then also understanding that one person helped changing one person's circumstance or world is really the greatest outcome.
Yeah, which you've already done. So,
Yeah. It's been a privilege.
yeah, and you're still breathing, still young, still goal oriented, and I'm really excited just to know you and to see what you do. And I would love to have you back. Like, I want to
Yeah.
talk about more stuff. I know it's just been over an hour, and I gotta like,
Yeah.
you know,
No, literally. You need to be
acknowledge people's
careful.
attention spans.
I'm a yapper. So yeah, gotta be careful with inviting me to conversations.
But I do have to ask you the question I ask everybody: is when do you or when have you felt like the coolest person in the world?
I love this question. I feel like the coolest person in the world when I get to remind someone else that they're not alone, whether that be at a walk, in a session with a client, writing music, having that moment where they feel seen and understood is when I feel like the coolest person in the world.
I love that. And I can already tell you just do it so well. What would you tell? I didn't think I had more questions, but I do
Yeah,
because
that's
that
okay.
just led me to it. But um, what would you tell? I don't know how I want to word it because I want to ask you what you would tell your younger self, your 22-year-old self. But I also want to ask you what you would tell a young woman looking for her way on her mental health journey.
Hmm. Let's see.
A young person. I shouldn't say a young woman.
Yeah, I think I would tell them the same thing. I think I would say, don't give up, keep pressing on because there's a community of people that are rallying for you and around you in ways that you might never see. And just to
Yeah.
believe that they're there, whether that be in person or in spirit, that someone cares enough about you, multiple people care enough about you to advocate for atmospheres and systems that promote their well-being
I
and
love that.
health.
I love that. When Tread and Trample is a international organization, I'll be like, I interviewed Shelby.
Yes. Yes. When we open a site in New Jersey, you can be there. You can cut the ribbon.
Absolutely. Listen, when I was reading the article earlier, I was like, can we open one here? Like, that's such a good idea.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I used to want to do when I was a new mom. There was something called stroller strides. I don't know if it still exists, but
Uh
it
huh.
was not mental health based, but mom based. You know, new
Yep.
moms going out and let's get together and walk and talk and do the things. So
Yeah.
clearly, that's medicine for the soul. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me, Shelby. I appreciate you and just your whole existence here in this life.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was so nice to meet you. I feel like this is definitely not our last conversation, whether it be on a platform or off.
Yes, not at all. We're not done talking personally for sure.
Hmm.
I already want to come travel, and I've never even met Whitney in real life. So, like,
Hey, I
no
have a
reason to
spare
come to West
room. Come whenever you
Virginia.
can.
Oh, and we'll leave. I promise we'll leave it there with this one. But I did
Yeah.
think of this. Are you a West Virginia girl? Are you sold or?
I I am not sure where I will end up landing. I think that West Virginia has definitely charmed me, and the people here are incredible. But I think it is a to be determined what
I
girl
can
I am.
appreciate that. Still young enough to figure it out.
Yeah, we're just taking it day by day.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again for your time and keep on keeping on. Send me everything. And you
Okay.
guys, if you're watching, be sure to look for Shelby's favorite song, links, everything will be linked below. And follow. I know Tread and Trample is on social media. Are you on social media as well?
Yep. Yep. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So